So Aja's going to come up and talk a little bit about what the connection is to health, because we do get questions every once in a while about why is the health department doing this? So Aja will clear some of that up.
Okay, so how many of you all have heard of the Center for Health Equity before Monica reached out to you? That's great. That's really excellent. I don't know if you all saw, but that was like 80% of the room, and sometimes it's like 40%, so thank you, we're really trying. Okay, so if you've heard of the Center for Health Equity, then you probably are a little bit familiar with our values and the work that we're really trying to move forward, but I will just go through that again, especially for the folks who didn't know about us. So CHE, remember that's what I'm calling the Center for Health Equity for short. CHE was founded in 2006 when Dr. Adewale Troutman, who was the health department director at the time, I love seeing people nod their heads. I like to tell people I love throwing out Dr. Adewale Troutman's name because I know what kind of weight that carries. And yes, we were founded by Dr. Adewale Troutman. And really, we were founded at a time when the public health field was trying to navigate what conversations they were going to be moving forward. So when we would ask people, what does health mean to you? We would get answers like, are you eating healthy, right? Are you eating your fruits and vegetables? Are you exercising? Are you sleeping? And I like to tell people as public health professionals, we want you to do all of those things, right? But we also recognize that it's incredibly difficult to maintain a diet with fresh fruits and vegetables if you don't have a grocery store in your neighborhood, right? It's really difficult to go and buy fruits and vegetables if you don't have the income, right? Because fresh fruits and vegetables can be expensive. Or if you don't have the transportation and the nearest grocery store to you is 10 miles away or 3 miles away. So for us, the Center for Health Equity, yes, we want folks to be able to do all of the healthy behaviors that we love to talk about as a public health department, but we also recognize that the choices that people make are shaped by what choices they even have available to them. And so our goal as the center, as CHE, is to expand those choices, right? And I'll get into it in a little bit, but we also very much understand that those choices in our community have been shaped in the history of this country by racism and other systems of power that have really defined where resources are and where they aren't. So we are here, 12 years later. We have learned so much from community in the last 12 years. And we had a new director who came in December 2015. She's recently taken another position, but if you had the chance to meet Brandy Kelly prior, then you know she was brilliant and is brilliant in all things that she does. And one of the very first things that she did when she moved here to Louisville was get out into the community and ask people, what do you understand about the Center for Health Equity? What do you want to see from the Center for Health Equity? And the number one thing that we heard is, hey, we get it. We understand that not having a grocery store near us impacts our ability to eat fruits and vegetables. We understand, et cetera, et cetera. We are not the decision makers. We would like you all to change your gaze and focus on the decision-making process. So that's what we've been doing ever since. So we changed our vision in 2016 or 17. I don't know, the years run by now. But we changed our vision to a Louisville where every person and every community can enjoy hope, happiness, and wellness. And I like to point out a couple of pieces of that, right? I think today, the most important piece about that is that every person in every community can enjoy hope, happiness, and wellness, those last three words. Because what hope and happiness and wellness looks like for one neighborhood or one community may be different from another neighborhood and another community, and that is great, that is okay. And we want to create space for what people want to see in their community so that they feel part of the building of the kind of community that they want to live in, right? I really like to sum it up to, we believe that we can create a better world, and often when we talk about this, we hear, yes, our grandchildren are really going to be able to enjoy a better world. Yes, hopefully, but we also want to be able to enjoy that better world, right? I don't want to wait 50 years to enjoy a better world. I really want it now. And we believe that right now, we have all of the resources necessary, all of the resources that we need, the people, the money, the places, everything we need to be able to create the kind of world that we all want to live in and that we all deserve to live in. We just have to be really effective and really efficient in how we do that. So that's our vision. One thing that I heard a lot when I moved here, and I'm from Texas, so I'm a Louisville transplant, but one thing that I heard a lot was the Center for Health Equality is doing really great work. And so the Center for Health Equity, we're very, we love equality, we do. But we're also very intentional in naming ourselves the Center for Health Equity, so I just like to define what health equity means before we move forward. So the definition that we've kind of named here at the health department and with some partners across metro government is health equity is when we've created a Louisville where everyone has a fair and just opportunity to be healthy, right? And so the most important pieces of there are that fair and just, that combination of that. Because in order for us to have justice, in order for us to do work in a justice-minded way, then we have to understand not just, but very importantly, the history of how we came to be where we are. And there's so much history to how we came to be where we are today. But also, most importantly, what does justice look like to the people who are most impacted by the history of how we came to be where we are today, right? How do we create the kind of communities that people who are currently living in communities that they don't feel like represent the kind of community they want to live in? How do we create those communities with those folks at the front of the decision-making process, right? So we truly believe that when we listen and when we hear the expertise from you all, and we shape our processes and our decisions and our vision and our values off of what you all need, then we're going to be able to build that better world. Okay, so if you've heard of the Center for Health Equity, you've probably seen this tree metaphor. If you've seen anybody from the Center for Health Equity present at all, I'm looking at a few people who have probably seen this presentation 4 or 5 times at least. Appreciate you sticking through it one more time with me because we're going to do it. This tree metaphor is, for me personally, one of the most important metaphors of my life. It has truly given me language to understand how to talk about this, and it's truly helped me be able to explain why the work that we do is so, so important. So you all have, one of the things that was at your chair is the Health Equity Report Preview. Again, if you've seen CHE Talk, you've probably gotten one of these before. Keep it. Give it to a friend. We want the whole world to know about the Health Equity Report. But if you open the book up, or if you open it up like a book, then you will see a tree branch with 21 different health outcomes that are named. And so this is a preview from our 2017 Health Equity Report, which I'm not going to get into here, but I can't help but plug this report. This is the 3rd installment in a series of 3. So we released our first one in 2011 and released our most recent one in November of 2017. What you have in front of you, I love to call the trailer to the movie. So it's just a quick, this is what you'll see in the report. Our full report is 170 pages. So if you're into reading books, read every single word of it, because every single word is very important. But also you can just read the health outcomes that matter most to you. So if you see that branch that lists all 21 health outcomes, that's everything that we look at in our Health Equity Report. And when we talk about those health outcomes, we really like to think about those as situated within the leaves of a tree, right? So coming back to this metaphor. And we do that for a few reasons. One, because when we think about trees, when we think about how healthy a tree is, we're very clear and we very much judge a tree based off its leaves, right? How green it is, how full that tree is, whether or not there's even leaves there, will determine for us how healthy that tree is. And similarly for people, right? We judge people's health based off of their health outcomes. So if people are navigating diabetes, if someone's had a stroke, if someone has cancer, then that signals for us whether or not that person is healthy. But similar to people, the health of a tree doesn't start in its leaves, right? Right. Yes, I love the feedback. Where does the health of a tree begin? At its roots, exactly. So for us in the center, we really like to understand what are the root causes to our health. And if you open up that preview all the way to where you'll see the tree, you will see there are about 11 root causes that we look at in the 2017 report. And for us, the root causes to our health are everything that shape our community. So how we experience the criminal justice system, how we experience food, housing, the environmental quality, all of that really significantly shapes the kind of health that we're seeing in our community. And so for us as public health folks, we see patterns in health outcomes, and what we understand is we see those patterns and who is experiencing what, who is carrying the burden of what, where are people experiencing health outcomes negatively, right, quote unquote the worst, or quote unquote the worst. We see these patterns in health outcomes because we see patterns in how people experience root causes. And what we know to be true is regardless of who you are, regardless of where you live, everyone experiences root causes, right? Everybody in this room experiences housing. Everyone in this room experiences food. How you experience that can be very different though. And we know that depending on the neighborhood you live in, what resources you have access to experience that in a way that actually improves your health, that can be very different from neighborhood to neighborhood. So, at the health department, we ask lots of questions. If anyone's ever experienced us in any of our inspection work or our Center for Health Equity work, you know that we ask lots of questions. So we asked why. Why do we see these patterns with these health outcomes? Because we see patterns in how people are experiencing root causes. Why? Why do we see patterns in how people are experiencing root causes? Because we all deserve to eat fruits and vegetables, right? So what we know is that the history of systems of power. And when we talk about systems of power, we're talking about the isms, right? Racism, sexism, the phobias, the transphobia, the homophobia. I mean, we could list them off here. We understand that that has fundamentally shaped how people experience root causes in this community and every community in this country. And so for us, that makes this work, right, all levels of this work, that makes that our business at the health department. Because we're really trying to create that vision where every person in every community can enjoy hope, happiness, and wellness, then we've got some things that we got to address first, right? And one of the things that we know is that systems of power, actually, before I get into that, does this make sense? Yeah, any questions about it? Cool. So one of the things that we really move forward here is an understanding that systems of power, like racism, like sexism, et cetera, create really inefficient policies and practices. And that's generally because the people who are most impacted by these policies and practices aren't part of the decision-making process. And so we find out years later, maybe that wasn't the best idea because these people were impacted negatively. So one of our goals is how do we build this understanding of equity, this understanding of health equity into decision-making processes, into the front end of processes, so that the people who would be most impacted by it are at the front end of the decisions.